I talk a lot about my experience on Wellbutrin and Adderall for ADHD and depression, and you make a good point that not everyone is going to have a good reaction to these medications, so I want to talk about it. The reason why I talk about these medications so much is because Wellbutrin truly was like life-changing for me. Even my mom looked at me after like a couple weeks of being on Wellbutrin and she was like, your personality is back and you just seem so much happier and so much more yourself, which like made me want to cry, honestly. And I've had some not so great, experiences with Adderall, even though I was on it for like a decade. So I like to talk about that as well in case anyone resonates with that. But you're absolutely right. Like, people have bad experiences with things like Wellbutrin and Adderall and every other medication, right? Some people unfortunately find out they're allergic to Wellbutrin, which is like the worst case scenario. Seizures are a side effect for some people, although it's not as common as people try to make it out to be. And Wellbutrin can also just make you angry and irritable. It's in a similar way that Adderall makes me angry and irritable. When a medication is impacting your norepinephrine levels, which Adderall and Wellbutrin both do, you might experience side effects associated with like an increased fight or flight hormone in your body. And so if it's making you angry and irritable, like, that's not the drug for you. And the people who have bad experiences often come into my comments and say, you shouldn't be talking about this, it's dangerous. And I genuinely do get that, but my personal take on this is that I would rather talk about my personal experiences, always saying like, it may not work for you. And talk to your doctor, because you have to. Because hearing other people talk about Wellbutrin is the reason why I tried it. And it was life-changing. Because I've talked about it online, my friends in real life will come to me and say, hey, like, what do you think? Should I try it? And I always say, you got to do what intuitively feels right for you, but here was my experience. And with the amount of like stigma, especially around ADHD medications, but around medications in general, I just think it's so important to have open and honest conversations about medications and how different people react differently, because not only is there so much stigma, but there's a lot of misinformation and a lot of fear mongering that happens around it. So yes, like, please work with a psychiatrist that you trust. Every medication that you try, especially like mental health related medications, should be tried with the mindset that this is an experiment to see if it works for you, because that's what psychiatry is. Like, it's kind of just educated guesses and then seeing what happens. And I don't think that anyone should watch a single TikTok and be like, I'm gonna go get on this medication because this one random girl I saw on TikTok said it. But if there are people who try this medication because they heard me and other creators talking about it and it ends up being life-changing for them, then that's awesome. Like, that's huge. And obviously I don't want a situation where like someone tries it and has a bad experience, but there's always gonna be a risk with that. Whether you only find out for medications from your psychiatrist or you hear people talking about it on TikTok and your psychiatrist. I'm also the first one to tell people in my comments, like, if they're having a bad reaction, go to your psychiatrist immediately. And a lot of people feel scared to tell their psychiatrist, like, I want to change drugs. So this is all part of the conversation that I think is ultimately a good thing.